Welcome, everyone in the Automated Success listeners. I'm Joe Langton, and I have the pleasure of having a guest that honestly I've been very excited to have. I saw some videos on LinkedIn about the product that they're working on, and today we have Charles Brian Quinn. I'm going to be calling him CBQ a lot because that's what he goes by. But I'm going to step back and I'm going to allow Charles or CBQ to introduce himself and let you guys know what he's working on and what I'm very excited to talk about with him today.
Oh, well, thank you, Joe, for having me. I'm CQ here, and I'm the co-founder and CEO of Greenzie. Big fan of the Automating Success podcast. I believe in the mission. As you better believe it, we got to help these landscapers and entrepreneurs automate the things that are repetitive and time wasting so that they can do their best and highest calling work. And well, frankly, that's actually our mission. Our mission at Greenzie is to free humans from repetitive outdoor labor. Now, I know that might not resonate with a lot of landscapers, but the bottom line is what we do is we reduce the cost of labor for lawn maintenance with robotics. And we have a very unique robotics. I'm sure we're going to dig in. I believe in commercial landscaping. I have a different theory than a lot of the those dumb robo-mowers, and I'm ready to rip into them a little bit on how dumb they are, but we'll get to that. But yeah, so CBQ, co-founder, CEO, I work at Greenzie. We're based in Atlanta, Georgia. We have about 10, 11, maybe more. There's people starting now. We're hiring like crazy. We've got a bunch of interns starting too. So happy to talk more about that. We're venture back, so we're growing and having fun.
Good. Well, as you know, I mean, I have figured out a way to put those little dumb mowers that you're going to get into to work.
Oh, yeah.
One of the things that I've always explained, and I will say to everybody, and I'll tell you, is that I've always tried to tell every landscaper that I work with and that I talk to, you know, technology is always going to evolve. Okay.
That's right.
And my thought when I got into this 5 years ago was use what's available to me now, start building market share. You know, right now I have 157 of those dumb little robots you're talking about, but it's a fleet and it's given me market share. Right. And now I'm excited to talk to someone like you because, you know, once the industry gets rolling, money will start to end up in the automated side of the industry. Companies will get more financial backing. Banks will start to loan for this type of stuff. People's P&Ls will start to look better, and away we go. You know, so yeah, like I said, I'm super excited. So I will let you dive into it. I want you to tell us why yours are so much better. I'm interested to hear it. You know.
Yeah, no worries. Yeah, so listen, I have a robo mower. I've had one back in 2010. I had one in '98, and I have a few here at the office. I have one at home. Great products. Don't get me wrong. Nothing wrong with to use the word dumb. We talk about a lot of smart technologies and that kind of thing. The term is maybe overused, but hey, it's my job to be opinionated, and I'm going to try and do it. When I set out to build Greenzie, the first question we asked ourselves is, why is there no software-based version of the RoboMower, right? So, you know, you have to put the boundary wire in the yard. And I know that there's some people working on that and there have been for a long time. But we were like, well, why is it just not standard? Like what's going on there? Why, you know, there's all these advancements in self-driving cars and automated vehicles. I have adaptive cruise control. I've got like parking sensor brakes, like all this stuff could be put together and we could do this now. Like, why aren't we? And that was the defining question that said, like, why shouldn't we? Well, let's try it. And so we called up a bunch of commercial landscapers and we asked, like, hey, what are you doing in robotics? And they said, well, you know, to do robo-mowers, like it is a different business, right? It is, as you know, than sort of me coming every week and doing mow, you know, blow, cut, clean, you know, edge, weed, all that other stuff. And it is, you have to mix it in your business. And I think you guys do a good job educating landscapers that, hey, this is not like something you're just going to toss out and be like, hey, we're done. Like, let's roll. Let's count the money. So what we have done is built software that is a boundaryless mower, and we put it on the big commercial mowers. So our smallest unit we offer is a 52-inch, which doesn't do residential, doesn't fit in the gates. Yeah. And what it does is our technology is dumb too. It's a very dumb robo mower, or excuse me, it's a very dumb robotic worker, excuse me. And that robotic worker does one thing very well, and that's stripe a lawn. So if you go to our YouTube and Instagram, and what you'll see is you mow the boundary, the perimeter of the area you want to stripe, then you set the mower off and it stays inside that boundary and just stripes it. And if it sees anything, it stops. We can now go around obstacles. It does a nice wide sort of circle arc around that obstacle and can keep going. But that's it. I mean, that's all it does. It's not gonna call your customers. It's not gonna, go do bill collection or take up more money. That's up to you.
Yeah.
So doesn't do edging or weeding or blowing either.
Well, and I think you brought up a good point. I mean, so like, as you know, I mean, I run the Husqvarnas and I'm doing Ambrosio's
Sure.
now. And, I
Great.
felt
Those are
like
great products.
what's that? Yeah, they
Those
were
are
the best, but they're daily mowers, right?
That's right.
And what I've been trying to tell people, and I want to see if you agree with this, is, the biggest mistake I feel the industry is making is everybody has this thought process of, well, when they develop something that does everything, then I'm in.
Right.
And I'm always trying to ask people, like, look at your current landscape trailer. You don't have one 52 or 60 or 72 inch zero turn. You have a zero turn, you have a walk behind, you have a small 20-inch mower. So why are we forcing the automation companies to come up with a one and done? That's unrealistic, right? So one of the things that I've been saying, and hopefully we'll expand on this in this podcast, is, I think in the future, CBQ, there's going to be a huge place for yours, because there is huge wide open mowing, a lot of big acreage. Is going to be a place for the Husqvarnas and the Ambrosios and the small homeowner lawns that do maybe want to get cut once a day, and you can't really stripe it. I mean, there are some places that we do in Lake Forest that the yards are so small they're push mowing them.
Right.
So it's all about really starting to get a feel, being open to all of the advancements in the technology, trying it, and then putting it into your business model.
It's the right tool for the right job.
Tool for the right job. Absolutely. Agreed. And I think the tool you've developed is the right tool for a lot of jobs. I will say that.
It is interesting. What we did to build this product is we just asked our customers what to build. In fact, a little known story is that when I started this company, I pretended to be a Georgia Tech student. That's the college I went to here in Atlanta, Georgia. And I called up landscapers, and I would say, first of all, well, hey, if you could wave your magic wand and to fix anything in the business. And they said, oh, well, routing is huge, time suck, traffic. And I was like, ooh, I can't fix that. That's a harder one. And then they said, well, I can't find enough people. And I was like, oh, well, why is that? And they said, I don't know why, but it's just been the worst, so people don't want to come out and do the hard work and make these things look beautiful. I mean, we have the work, And so I said, well, can I ride along? Can I go with your crews? And so I did. I strapped on my boots and put on a shirt and went out with them. And I watched and I timed the activities that they were doing. And I said, well, on a job site, I was like, well, hey, what took the longest? And he was like, I remember one of the guys said, oh, it was the edging of the pruning of the bushes. And I was like, well, I timed it, and like the mowing was the longest. And he's like, yeah, but we always have to do that. He's like, I just put on my headphones and, we have like this, that's sort of, given. And I was like, is it though? So I think there was a lot of assumptions that people were making. And then they said, oh, well, the robo mowers don't work because they just, they have to cut, all the time, right? The reason that, they say daily cut, right, is that it's an inefficient algorithm. If you open that thing up, which I've cracked them all open, and, there's a microcontroller in the code, I could write, and, my kids could write. It's when you hit the wire, bounce in a random direction. And I know there's some advancements coming up in that, and I'm happy to see that. But, so the reason it does have to run all the time is because it is inefficient. We know, when you ask a landscaper to do it, they don't random bounce around the yard until they're done. They just, line up and, stripe it, which is the most efficient way to do it. Yes, it also looks nice. Like the background behind me in my sort of video if you saw the video.
It looks nice. Yeah, I've seen
it. It does look very nice. By the way. Yeah. So, basically our customers told us what to build. And so we just built exactly that. They said, you know what? I don't want another robot. In fact, what I'd really love is for my right stander ZK to have autopilot. And I said, okay, let's build that. So we did.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I think that, like I said, something I've always had to overcome, because of course, I'm a dealer, I sell all these robots, and, I do always have to overcome the striping. Right. And I will say, once again, it's like in certain markets, certain customers want it striped, and I'm doing sports fields and big, big commercial sites. If I had an operator back, and I still do mow the traditional way right now on some of my accounts, they would literally say, did you give me somebody different? The lines don't look the same, right? So some customers do look. On the flip side, a lot of residential customers, you know, they don't really look at the lines. They look at how the other things are getting done, the pruning,
Correct.
the weeding,
Yes.
the trimming. And what I always found, and one of the reasons that I got as a contractor, what I saw this as a wide open space, and I'm so passionate, much like you, by the way. Your energy is great. I feel like we share a mutual energy for this type, passion, I should say, for what we're doing. But I realized, okay, what's the biggest excuse why those other tasks don't get done?
Bingo.
You said it. He said, well, we always have to mow. That's what happens. The employees say, well, we always have to mow, so we'll just skip the trimming until next week. Well, then the customer waits another week and says, well, I thought you were going to trim this week. That is one thing that I want every landscaper, and if you have just an open mind, we've all taken those complaints, so this, and it makes sense, right? Because when we all know, if you skip a week of mowing, it's going to be worse next week. So you can't skip it. But once the bushes push out, they're done, so it's like, then you can't even really get on your employees, but the customers are still upset. And if, like you said earlier, if the repetitive tasks are taken, the other tasks that the homeowners really expect perfection and manicured look, now they have the time to spend. So anyways, so before we go, just talk all automation, I do want to catch up. I want to get our audience understanding you, right? So, tell us a little bit about your background, your childhood, where you grew up. Because, I look at myself, and a lot of who I am has nothing to do with anything other than how I was brought up. Right. I mean,
yeah, totally.
So I want to learn more about you. So
sure. I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia, pretty idyllic childhood, great mom, great dad. One of the fun stories of things that we did that will lead into sort of what I do is we had an idea one time to my dad and mom have always been, my dad had been very entrepreneurial, and he encouraged us to start things and start businesses. So one of the more formative memories I have is when I was very young is we started a recycling business. And so what we would do is we would hop in my mom's van, leave the door open, and we basically put out flyers to all the neighbors that we were going to, collect recycling. And I'm not going to date myself, but this was early 80s. And so you could actually take that to a big recycling center. You get some money for it, especially cans and, bottles and that kind of thing. And we weren't too rich. And so it was fun. And one of the things I learned that really impacted me was that we would go and basically pick up trash that people were going to throw away because there were no recycling at the time, really, unless you went to these places, and we would get money for it. That's like ultimate zero-sum game, which is something I and my co-founder totally believe about entrepreneurship, is that when you create a business, you're not taking something away from somebody. You're not taking from this or stealing or extracting or whatever. When you do entrepreneurship, it is a zero-sum game that you are getting better, your business is getting better, you're improving other people's lives. It is a net positive win and one of the most amazing forces of good. And so to have that lesson that you could basically create a business out of trash and like create value for your neighbors who loved it, who thought they were doing good for the environment, and you could make some money, like it was awesome. And I still remember that to this day. And so of all the businesses I have started, like I love telling people I'm an entrepreneur and love starting things. And so that was sort of baked into me. The other thing that was baked in is I've been surrounded by computers and software my entire life. My dad also was a psychologist doing some of the first computerized testing. And so we had a computer at home and always, had something going on. I remember writing my first program when I was very young. I don't remember what age, but, it was a game where you'd sort of say, it was in Basic A, if anybody knows what that is, on the Apple II. And it would say, like, hey, tell me your favorite fruit. And you'd type, banana or whatever. And it said, okay, now spell it. And you'd try and spell banana again. And if you didn't spell the word IT, it would say, ha, 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 I tricked you. Anyway, it's a really lame story, but, it was one of my favorite games that I built. And then I moved on from there. I just been programming my entire life. So doing it is very natural to me. So programming, entrepreneurship, solving problems, both of those things have really shaped me into the person that I am today.
Nice. Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah. We, not programming, but I always say, as an entrepreneur, the best entrepreneurs are the best problem solvers.
Bingo. Totally agree.
That's what it is, So
it's like this ultimate amazing feedback loop that you get from, I know that I think I've spoken to a lot of millennials, not to bash them or anything. Your co-host is one, maybe. But there's this like sometimes this like they talk about wealth as being bad or greed, and like money is this amazing feedback loop you get from entrepreneurship that, if your product is good, then you get money, and money is a sign of value. And I just don't think there's anything bad about it. I don't want to get too far into that because it may be kind of weird, but
yeah. So
like you solve the problem, you get money.
So not all millennials, just like not all people are created equal.
That's true. That's true.
Julia is with me all the time. Yeah.
I'm amazing. I bet she picks up amazing amounts of that.
It is.
Yeah, and I don't mean to blanket statements.
No. I know, but I'm just saying. But I do agree. I will say this. There has been, and we won't go too far into it, but I do want to expand on it a touch. I don't know what it is about our society, but it's, I don't necessarily want to call it jealousy, but it's like you want to drag people down that have a lot of money so that people that don't have a lot of money can have more. The issue is it's never going to work, because some people have a tremendous amount of drive and will always do something to have more, and other people are content. And what I always say is it'll get better if we get to a day and age where the people that are content and just want to be content, let them be content, but don't penalize the people like you and I that are so passionate about what we do. I mean, I don't know. I think I can speak for you because you got a big smile on your face. So I'm going to assume this, it's like I wake up in the morning and come into my office and start to work. And sometimes it'll be a Saturday or Sunday and it'll be like, oh, you're going to work today. I'm like, no, this is not work to me. Like, I just enjoy it. You know what I'm saying? So I think that some people are just so fortunate to find their passion and what they love. And once you find that, the money's going to come. The money will come, so totally. Put in the hours. Anyways. All right. I'm off that. All right. So we're something else I noticed in our research with you. I see you're into sailing, and I love boating. Yeah. I only sailed for a small time in my life, a little lightning class sailboat. And then I went the easy route with just going on Lake Michigan in my 2-engine boat and going to see the skyline. But tell me about that, because sailing is something else all in itself. So, kind of hit on that a little bit and tell me what you love about it.
Sure. Yeah. The thing I think I love about sailing is there's this unique science behind it that I didn't really get. And, growing up doing it, my dad had a boat, and we had the little Hobie Cat, which is basically those 2 little pontoons and a little trampoline, and you throw up the sail, and we just would tool around the lake in Atlanta and Charlotte, and when we moved there. And one of the things I think people get about sailing that's kind of cool when you explain it is that there's only one direction you can't go, and that's directly into the wind. Now that means you can like go sideways and actually even diagonal to the wind. And when people say like, how does that work? And there's science, like it's the Bernoulli principle. And when you look at the sort of top down of it, you're basically putting wind over one side and the other, it creates lift. And I just loved the sort of science and tuning and sort of problem solving that goes along with it. I liked everything about it. You go and you have to set this thing up and you have to build this thing. You have to like put it all together. You have to get your sails ready, and it's just a fun kind of cool sport. And, I wish more people could get into it. They do tell you though, there are 2 good days as a person who boats, and maybe this, Joe, but the day you get it and the day you sell it.
Yes, I do know. Everybody tells me that, but I must love it too much because I don't feel that way, but.
So I just sold mine because I have 2 little kids, and, it's funny, before we had kids, I remember telling my wife, we went out and did our little sailing. We have a sailboat, and perfect weekend where you take the boat out, you have the weekend on the lake. It was perfect. Sunset, sunrise, like really fun. And we get out and we're going home, and I'm like, that was the best sailing weekend we've ever had. We should sell the boat right now. And she's like, oh, why? Like it was so good. And I'm like, that's just kind of my Emma, my wife's hilarious. She puts up with me, but cause I'm like, that was it. Like just sell it right now. And she was like, well, I don't know if I want to. And I'm like, all right, fine. So a year it sat at the marina before a broker came by and said, hey, I'll buy it from you. And I was like, done.
Yeah.
So I should have sold it then, but totally fine.
Yeah, it is what it is. Well, yeah. So I like I said, I agree with you. I think that I've always said anybody that just runs a power boat, like the one I have now, should have a basic understanding of sailing. So they also understand there's a reason the sailboats are doing this across the water, because most people don't have any idea why that happens, So, there's a reason.
Oh, thank you. I wish there were more power boaters like you. When on a sailboaters would always be like those power boaters.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're doing the opposite, right?
You're trying to flip the mast, and here comes a big weight from a boat, and you're like, thanks a lot. Now I got to deal with your wake and the wind shift, but, all right. Well, anyways, off of that. So, you told us about picking up garbage with your mom and stuff. I don't, or with your family, I should say.
Recycling, yeah.
Recycling, yep. And I don't know that I would, if you consider that like a first job, but like, did you ever have a job? I mean, were you always kind of into doing something yourself, or what was your first job and what did you take from it in your later entrepreneurial endeavors?
I appreciate you asking. The first real job I had was at a computer store. So I was putting together computers at one of these sort of retail, little in the mall sort of computer places, and I was pretty good at it. I even built like a web-based sort of app to like configure these things, and I did really well at it, and to where I was kind of running the shop even when I was in high school. And I remember one day I had a cell phone. My number was 50 Brian, which was, I used to go by Charles Brian Quinn. And anyway, I'll get to that later. But, and this was in high school, and they would keep calling me. They'd be like, "What's up with this machine?" And I'm like, "I can't answer you. Like, I'm in high school. Like, this is not, like, call me later." And so that was a fun job though. Like, I ultimately sort of rose up to the level of like, just problem solving. And I had a blast doing it. It was super fun. I mean, I remember all kinds of crazy times where we would get into trouble selling these things and then trying to figure out how to do it. And I was a bunch of great seminal lessons in really, the value of like having customers who are happy, promising one thing, and then also even promising maybe a little more and rising up to that. So just a lot of great lessons there. But I loved working in a computer store. Later on, when I went to college, I had my own sort of company doing websites and things like that. And really enjoyed that as well. Sort of the idea of like paying, me to do stuff. I always was selling stuff too. We sold a bunch of stuff on eBay and all that kind of stuff. So tons of jobs, and then really got into software and entrepreneurship, sort of right after college. Like, can I start something? How do I do this? How do I really start a business and grow it and scale it? And I've been lucky on a couple. I've started a few, and one has been really successful, and the next that I'm in right now seems extremely successful. So very, very lucky to have those, but a lot of at bats, so to speak.
So those other businesses that you've been involved in or have had, obviously you evolve, right? I mean, that's the one thing I always like to get out in this podcast is, as much as for automation, it's just to inspire people to be entrepreneurs in the first place. And I think that, every company you start, whether you start it and sell it or decide to go a different venture, it's just a learning experience, So what are some things you learned in the other companies that got you to where you sit today in seeing the potential to this new to Greenzie?
Wow, so many. I could think of some of the big ones that are resonating with me right now is realizing, for a while, one of my businesses was me. The custom programming sort of shop. People would say, "Oh, you got to go talk to CBQ at blah," and the name of the company. And for a while, that was fun, and I liked that. But when I took the step to to actually build the company and really become the CEO and not just put it on the business card, which I actually had a hard time doing for whatever reason, not saying I was, an actual developer, but just saying CEO, and really becoming CEO and working what I would call on the business as opposed to in the business. That was tough. I mean, very tough, because, I always wanted to say like, "Oh, I can jump in here and do this better." But I think the big lesson for me was realizing that I couldn't. When I started making some good hires, and I found people who were literally better than I was at like the things that I just absolutely hated doing, was mind blowing. And now I make it my life's mission to seek out those people, empower them, help them lead and learn, and then surpass me, which is great, because I would love to work myself out of the job always. That's actually how you make yourself indispensable, is be indispensable. And then people are like, "Hey, how do you work yourself out of this? Like, CBQ, go fix this and then work yourself out."
Yeah.
So I make it, that would be, I think, my best lesson. The other is just, iterate. The thing that, it's actually a core value of Greenzie is, we call it Duhansei to do Kaizen, which is just Japanese for relentless reflection to continuously improve. And so I believe that the secret to life is to do, and then learn from it and then repeat. And so I think a lot of people just, for whatever reason, love just researching. like they'll just be like, well, I'm going to have to like research the best robo mower. I'm just going to research forever. And it's like, no, you should go put one in the ground,
Yeah.
learn how that wiring system works, repeat, and then do it again and again and again and again. And that's the secret, as you know, and some of your listeners may know. Too many people just don't do. They skip the first step. Do.
Yeah, well, and then they sit on the bench so long that then the opportunity passes them by. Is what happens.
Bingo.
Yeah, no, I'll tell you what, I love the reflecting and constantly learning, because businesses, much like people and everything in life, is just constantly evolving, and you should always be getting better. It's kind of like that. Like they say, if your company is not growing, it's shrinking. You can never find that in between. You can't just lock it in place. And yeah, so no, I like your values. I was actually going to get to your guys' core values anyway, so I might just jump right into it. You hit one of the core values, but I'm someone that believes in having companies now that have core values, so you don't have to micromanage. Like I always say, I don't want to be a boss. I want you to flourish. This is our, it's like, honesty. I put in my values, like, we want to make money. I want my people to know we're here to be profitable, so if you want to explain some of your core values, if you want to talk about any of that, or, I'm just interested, because you brought it up already. So.
Yeah, two stories that actually came to mind, if you don't mind a quick tangent, is in my first company, we never did this core values exercise. I thought it was silly. I was like, I don't have time for this. We're making money. Like, do more work. Like, that's the core value. And I remember a friend of mine.
Like my brother.
Yeah,
that's
exactly. I don't know your brother, but
he's
I sound like a lot. I sound like a lot of people.
Do work and keep making money. Yeah. Anyway, so yeah.
So I was that way, and then I took this weekend with my friend who runs a great branding company here in town called Matchstick. They're one of the best, and it was called Brand Camp. And we sat down and we did our core values, and it was a game changer. And I can tell you, like, instantly, right away, it answered a ton of questions that I didn't even know I had. What kind of customers are the best for us? How do we answer the phone? All those questions were suddenly answered because we did our core values. So like, I remember for this company, we were personable, optimistic developers who were, did craftsmanship. And so, those were the core values. And I remember thinking like, well, shoot, we should, like, we're never going to hire the developer who sits in the corner and is like not personable and doesn't know how to talk to somebody. And so we were like, yeah, like, well then, X, like, don't even look at those people anymore. And then it was like, well, customers, they have to be personal. They can't literally be like, hey, I'm just shopping a spec. Like, it'd be like, hey, no, we really want to understand, like, what problem are you trying to solve? Like, can you explain it to us? And, so anyway, all those things, the values answered. So in this company, Greenzie, we were very intentional about our core values. And I think those things actually do kind of evolve, which is really kind of interesting to think about. Like, they're not, I think the entrepreneur and the founders, myself and my co-founder, have these values. And so that's very instilled in the company, but how they kind of play out and what the sort of origin stories are and all that very evolves. It's like every time you talk to an entrepreneur, it's like you have to ask, like, well, what was it then? And then what is it now? Because we have this nice backwards looking sort of rose colored glasses to say like, oh, that was a big failure, but it was great. And I'm like, I'm sure you didn't say that at the time, right? Like, it was a great learning experience.
Yeah.
But yeah, so values were really good for us. I could talk about them forever. They're actually on our website. They're kind of that important. We have 6 at Greenzie, and I won't go into all of them, but Kaizen is one, for sure, 100%. The first one though is safety first, and I have to mention that because everything we do at Greenzie, from the code we write to the peer review. Like when I, got into this podcast, I had to ask, a team was over here like doing a safety review and a core code review to like make sure that the code that we add does what it says it's going to do and test it. It's just all throughout the company. And then, all the way to customer success. Like, there's a reason we do what we do, and it's because our customers are here. So we like to pretend that our customer is at the table when we're making a decision. It's real easy to be in a vacuum and be like, well, maybe we could do this, maybe we could do that. And I'm like, well, what do our customers want? And sometimes I just like pick up the phone and text them. I'm like, hey, what do y'all want us to do? And they're like, do this. We're like, okay, guys, here's the answer. Like, they told us.
Yeah. Well, that's the best way to do it. Communication, and it's not, now you don't have to mull over it. So yeah, that's great to know that you've got that rapport with the people you were working with in the beginning to make a great product, so. Totally. So obviously you kind of walked us through your past, so kind of tell me like how Greenzie started, obviously, like what made you decide, okay, I see a potential or whatever it was. And then, yeah, I guess just start me from there. So take me from the beginning to where you are present day.
Well, so, when I go to meet people in cocktail parties, which, I used to when that was the thing of the past, COVID times, but when I would meet people, I used to always ask, what are you passionate about? I never really asked, like, what do you do? Because, like, that's a silly question. Like, what do you do for work? I think it's a boring question. It's like, what are you passionate about? And people would say things like, oh, kite surfing, or really into my kids right now. They're awesome. And I'm like, oh, I love it. And when people ask me, they, hit it back to me, which I love. I would say, you know what? I love coding. Like, I love writing software. I love solving problems. And one of my favorite projects, at the time, and still is to this day, is in my house, there were all these shades, like roller shades, that roll up things, and they were from different vendors. And I wanted to automate them. Like, I just basically wanted them to go up and down automatically based on sunrise, sunset. And there was nothing out there. So I built it, and I coded it up, and I, spent weekends on it and had fun, and, little microcontroller and, software, and it just works. Like, it just works. So, like, even today, like, my wife's like, yeah, that's like the one thing you built that just works. She's kidding. But, there's plenty of stuff I built that still works, but it just does. And we automated it. And so I used to talk about that. And my co-founder, David, is a good friend of mine, and he would always hear me say that. Like, we were in the same forum together, which is like a sort of mastermind group. And I came to him one day and I said, he's actually known in Atlanta for starting companies. He's going to come out as having the Midas touch. He basically starts companies that are successful. It's crazy. If you look him up, David Cummings. And don't want to toot his horn. I can toot his horn enough. Can't do it enough because he's just so modest about it. But I came to him and said, hey, David, I want to start something new. It's like, you know me. And he goes, all right, I got the perfect idea for you. And I said, what is it? And he said, outdoor robotics, those robo-mowers. And I remember laughing. I'd be like, what are you talking about, man? Like, I was like, and I remember we might've been at his lake house watching one go around or whatever. And he's like, why is there no like Tesla of that? And I go, yeah, you're right. I've had one too. Like mine, I was like, you're right. You have to put in the boundary, like the boundary wire. I guess I assume that like, these are built by hardware companies. You only know hardware. Like, I guess it just assumes. And I thought about it and I said, okay, that's interesting. And I went home and started researching. And then the next day I started researching more and then kept researching. And then I came back to him and I remember like, I was like, David, I'm obsessed with this idea now. And I forget how long ago that was, but I'm still obsessed with it right now. Yeah. But it is doable. It is now, the time is now. And we have been able to do it. So that has really been it. The other sides of that I'm not telling you are that I did invest in a lawn company called lawn.com, and we had labor challenges. And so I knew a bit about the green industry. I sometimes play that I don't. I've mowed my fair share of lawns. And while I did not start off as a landscaper and I don't have that, cutting my teeth on that, I know some of these challenges. And so like knowing that, this is a big problem, the labor challenge and that robotics and software-based robotics, which is our difference and key differentiator between a lot of and again, to put fun at the dumb robo-mowers, I do love them and our software is dumb too in its own way, but that's the sort of key difference. So that's the origin story. There's an even longer one if you're interested in reading it on the Atlanta Ventures story, which is a blog, which is a fun one. I'm lucky to be a part of their studio, which helps entrepreneurs like me start with very unfair advantages, which I'm a huge fan of. I think everyone should seek unfair advantages. And, I know that not everybody comes from the time when they can do it. And I'm very cognizant of, especially in this past year, all the things that I've been given and I'm grateful for and have gratitude for, but I still think everybody should seek unfair advantages no matter where you come from or what color your skin is or whatever your biases and disabilities and abilities are. You should seek unfair advantages to basically put yourself and others ahead to create more value for everybody. So I'll stop there.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm currently trying to seek that unfair advantage right now.
Everybody is.
Everything I'm doing is self-funded, but you get to a point where when you have natural aspirations, yeah, you're looking for those advantages, but that's just part
I tell you, it's a good time to be in venture back. Like not to, hopefully your audience is maybe thinking about raising money or doing any of that, man. Money is, it's kind of sloshing around, not to be crude about it, but if you have a very good product, authentic demand, a team that can execute, basically, I don't think venture capitalists want you to know this, but investors, they are seeking people who want to build things. There's a lot of venture capital out there. So I'm not saying venture capital is for everybody. I don't think some people should do it. I think some ideas are not catered to it. Like if they don't have venture scale, there's no reason to raise money. But if you're, and that's been a big shift for me. I've always bootstrapped. My previous companies were all sort of bootstrapped, like, you buy it, sell it, buy it, sell it, buy it, sell it, like don't go unprofitable. Right now, Greenzie is pretty fun because we are very unprofitable. And I'm proud of that because the market and our demand is so big that I'm using my investors' money to give it away and to really learn from our customers and like seek that unfair advantage to build the best product for them so that when we are at that scale, the profits will come. So it's a different mindset for me. And it's very challenging when I see our burn and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, okay, bring on another developer. Yeah. Hire another. Yeah. Let's go. Order 3.
So it's so funny you bring up burn because when it's your own money, I just had a conversation with my team about this. And I told them, I'm like, hey, we're burning a lot of money right now. We gotta start.
Oh yeah.
Deals.
Oh yeah.
It is that's the challenge.
Well,
some
and I think the best way to do it is to do both. I've been lucky and had a small exit that I could do this, but I think that's what has attracted a lot of the good investors is they look at the cap table, which is our capitalization, and they go, whoa, CBQ like putting his own money where his mouth is, like. Yeah. All right, let's go. Like, let's go. So, and we've got a lot of green industry people, which I'm super excited about, who understand and know what we're going after. I don't have to explain to them any of this. Like I've pitched these Silicon Valley VCs and they're like, how many yards are in America? And I'm like, are you freaking kidding me? Like, it's the largest crop in the United States by 3 times corn. Like, never mind. This meeting's over. Like you're done.
So first of all, we could have a whole nother episode just talking about that, I think, and maybe we might have to set that up. But I agree that it's people don't have any idea how much turf gets mowed in this country. I mean, it is crazy. And even like with my relationship with with Husqvarna and Ambrosio, it's like, all these other, robot manufacturers came from places where they don't really have a lot of turf. I mean, they have 5,000 square foot yards. So it actually kind of explains why there is not software based, because like I said earlier, they didn't need the yards to be striped. There are gardens out there. And
to their credit, I mean, if I was a hardware manufacturer now and I thought about hardware and knew how to do hardware, I would do what they did and I would sell that thing for $2,000. But, I think the time is coming now. The time is now for software. It's eating the world. And I don't think it was possible. I've actually studied this and there's been a bunch of companies who have tried to do what we do. And for whatever reason, I think I know the reasons. I think sensor costs were too high. The self-driving was, industry was not as far along. The safety sensors, depth sensing cameras, all the software ruggedization and, cloud-based and 4G and all that stuff, it's all had to come together. And again, I think now is the time. So I don't. Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I want to.
I want to say it before I forget, because it's been on the tip of my tongue a few times. So
sure.
So there's 2 questions that I have. The one thing I'll say about the small little mowers, and honestly, I mean, my audience should know. I mean, it's Husqvarna for me and Ambrosio. So, totally. The thing is, it's an 8.5-inch blade, very small, So my original selling point was, the thing bounces off you, you pick it up, it's 30 pounds. It's not going to do any damage. So how do you guys deal with insurance? Because I know my audience, if they'll email me after this and say, oh yeah, what am I going to tell my insurance company about this unmanned thing moving around? So I want you to expand on that in a second for me. And secondly, with all those other smaller robots, everything's trying to go line of sight. The whole way they're going to get rid of wires is line of sight. And I know personally, there's all sorts of line of sight issues. So how do you overcome those line of sight issues with yours, or do you not use satellite? Is it different? So if you could expand on that, because I think it's important for people to understand how that happens, because otherwise they're going to sit on the bench and wait. So.
All right. Well, I love it because you asked a legal and a technical question. And so I would love to just answer the technical, but I'm going to go after the legal. So there are no laws. There's no regulation for what we're doing because it is so new. So we are seeking to go above and beyond of all the regulations we're finding that make sense. So the biggest one that my team follows, and we all know, is there's an 802 standard. I'm not going to quote it on here. It's on our website. If you go to the safety page, but there's automated industrial robots have a bunch of safety standards that goes from everything from e-stop, which has to be at the hardware level. Like there's no like sort of, okay, then we'll read it and then do this and whatever. Like, nope. There's a ton of other standards with remote sort of operation, how it starts, the systems, all that stuff, how do you, FCC licensing, all that stuff. So know that we are going through it and trying to go above and beyond, but know that there is not, like, for instance, you can't call up your broker and be like, hey, I want to add 3 workers and 2 robotic workers. Not yet. We will get there and we will help them one day figure out that cost, and it's going to be less because robots don't show up drunk and they aren't tired. They see the same thing at 7 a.m. as they do at 7 p.m. And in fact, they can see in the dark. So I think they'll be better on the bottom line. But for as of right now, I can tell you how our big customers are doing it. And that is they are weighing the downsides of like, I literally do not have enough people. So yes, I will take on the burden of responsibility. Mowing is a dangerous activity. I can't change that. It is, there's risk involved. And so all of our customers know that. You guys know that. There's safety. We don't operate when kids are around. None of this stuff is I shouldn't have to say it, but I do. So there's a lot of rules and regulations around that. I think we will look back and wonder why we put humans on these dangerous machines, that roll over, fling grass, cuts, like people drown. I mean, 3 people drowned. One of my big customers, like, because they were on the mower near one of those like embankments with the water.
Yeah.
And so like, I mean, it's like giving me goosebumps because I'm like, we got to stop that. Like we have to move faster because I do not want like, we can replace a robot and a machine. We can't replace a human.
Well, and you can set a mowing speed. Something I always talk about is, if that right stander mows best at 8 miles an hour, but it can move 12 miles an hour, the operator runs at 12 miles an hour.
Yeah,
all
exactly.
time. You know what I'm saying? But
our robot goes nice and clean.
Yes, 8 miles an hour. That's what you get.
So that was the legal question. I punted on the insurance, and let me be clear with you guys. There's not anything right now, and we're working on it. I would love to. I don't want to be curt or anything about that. That's a valid question. Safety, insurance. I'd love to talk more about that because I think it's a hard question. We should attack it head on. Technology. This is my passion. So get ready. But you asked a good question, which is how does it work? And I'll start high level and then I'll go as deep as you want me to be. But we're putting out a lot of how it works videos on our websites, and we're going into a ton of detail because people are asking these questions. But when a mower sort of does what it does, we are basically roboticists. So I hire computer scientists who are roboticists who've been doing this forever. And the term right here is modern roboticists is called probabilistic robotics. And so what that means is that the world is very dirty. Sensors give dirty data. We don't quite see everything. We can kind of guess at certain things. GPS goes in and out. Wheel odometry, they slip. But what the neat part is that scientists, computer scientists, and other people, researchers, have developed algorithms that do basically, I'll call it smoothing or sort of estimated guesses. The fancy word for it is an extended Kalman filter. And what that does is basically we fuse all of the sensor data into this Kalman filter. It's much like even Google Maps actually uses a version of the Kalman filter. And I'll give you an example. A real easy way to talk about it is if you're going and you go under a bridge and GPS, and your GPS goes out, you'll notice sometimes Google Maps kind of like says, oh yeah, you just went off the exit ramp, even though you're not. And the reason is because the Kalman filter said what happened was it used GPS, which is gone. So it doesn't know where you are, but it used something called the IMU. Every phone has an IMU, which is like the magnetom. So it knows how it's moving. So it knows the velocity. And what it probably did was it got a little jerk that way, or kind of thought it was going a little bit that way. And so it tells you that it thinks you're on the exit ramp. And so it keeps going. And that Kalman filter is decent, but it's on the phone, so it's not as good. The IMU is not as good. This is just for playing games. So we use a commercial grade robotic sensor. It's not cheap, and it's a very good IMU. We use odometry. We use GPS. We use centimeter level GPS. We fuse all that together. So we have a very accurate, what we call localization or idea of probabilistic where the robot is at all times. And so we are able to do centimeter level mowing of lawns, even with sort of coverage around tree cover and all that. And there's some advancements that we're also using with SLAM to where we can even do visual odometry, which is where, if you think about it, when you get close to like sort of areas where there is stuff, like in a wide open field, it has to be GPS because there's nothing for the mower to see. And so it knows better than you where the stripes are. But when you get close to stuff and there's tree cover and bridges and like things that would block out the GPS, there's actually, you can use what we call visual odom. The mower can lock onto objects and say, oh, there it is. So when it passes it, it knows how far away it is to those objects. And so it actually gets better the Kalman filter extends itself and says, oh, hey, I've got more information about the world around me and I can use that. Now I could go into a ton more depth, but I'm gonna stop there and make sure I'm not boring your audience.
No, so you're definitely not boring me, and I'm assuming if my audience is listening to my podcast, they're like you and I. So don't worry about that. So, but I will say, as long as you stop there. So, and of course, I have a bias because I already know how some of the other systems are going to work, right? But
sure.
So we also have Left Hand and Swazi, so
totally love those guys.
Yep. So because they're more up your alley, they're working software and stuff. So, knowing that you've got a set of GPS gimbal and, you do all this stuff. Okay. I noticed in some of your videos, one of the things I noticed that I was just like, holy cow. Cause I don't know if you know, but my daughter and I developed our own app and we're,
awesome.
Okay. So one of the things I noticed is like your guy takes out the tablet, draws a thing on the yard and like does a thing, right? So I was kind of interested.
That's fake. That's our vision video, and that to be honest, that's where we want to be, but you can't do that right now. So I want to be very clear about that.
Well, I'm glad you were, because even myself, I was like, holy cow,
Yeah, there's some sizzle there, and what I want to do is really get people to understand the vision of what we're going after. Like ultimately we will be there, and the team, we know how to do that. That's in our roadmap, is to be able to take that. We have a name for that feature. It's not done yet, and we don't need to, by the way, yet. The product works as is and can reduce the cost of labor right now, and it works. But doing that sort of where you go around it, it actually is not quite a feature that even our customers want. I think that they, having shown it to them, they're like, oh, I get how it works now. This is awesome. And the whole concept of this company is, as you mentioned, the Kaizen, continuous improvement. All we have to do is get better and better. And I think a lot of people, it goes back to your thing, like, does it have to be perfect now? No, it doesn't. It has to work and has to help our customers provide more value to their customers ultimately, and then we can keep improving.
Okay.
But yeah, that does not work right now, just to be fully clear.
Okay. Yeah. So, but then if you are using satellite, is it like connected to the trailers on the truck, or like how
No, what has happened? No. Yeah, what has happened is what you're talking about is RTK GPS, which is where you have a base station that sends correctional data. The best way I can explain it is that normal GPS works off seeing 3 satellites, and that's just sort of math. You can do Pythagorean theorem and sort of say, okay, I know where I am. So you get basically terrestrial commercial GPS is 3 to 5 meters, which is, means you could be off by 9 to whatever that is, 15 feet, even, in sort of some areas. And that's not good enough for mowing a lawn. If I show up and I'm like, 15 feet off, like I'm in the sidewalk, right?
Exactly.
So I'm in the house.
You're getting run over by a Mack truck.
Yeah, exactly. So we can't use commercial GPS. And so what they've done is surveyors used to use this. They would, stick out a stake and they'd actually have a 4th GPS point. And what it does is kind of neat is it's doing its own GPS, and then it's measuring the ionosphere and several other pieces of data to basically send corrections to the other one to say, hey, I'm here, you're here. Let's locally line up and say that we will set a ground plane and say, hey, it's 3 meters off, but now, you know what? Boom, it's not, because I have this stake in the ground that says it's not. And as long as you don't move that base station, you're good. Now, what's also happened that's been really cool and that we knew was coming, which is why we started this company, is that you do not need the base station. We do not use the base station anymore. You can actually, there are systems around the world. It's called NTRIP, and you can get that correctional data over the internet. So there are base stations everywhere, and all over the US is lit up. Canada is even better than us. They're beating us at that. That's okay. It's like the only thing they're beating at us at. Sorry, Canada. But I think I can say that if somebody lives in Michigan, right? So or from the north.
You said it's close enough.
Yeah, there you go. So, but you do not need the base station anymore. That's NTRIP. It comes over the air. It's very good. It is phenomenal. I mean, we pay a pretty penny for that data. It is on fire, and everywhere is lit up. Florida even used to have it sort of as a public service. The commercial people have come in and done it 10x better, to be honest with you. And so that has really enabled us. So now when you bring our mower out, as soon as you come out of the truck, it's doing an L2 band. I mean, this is, pretty expensive GPS stuff. I mean, it really works on commercial really well right now, but the cost keeps going down, down, down. And so when you bring it out of the truck, it takes about 30 to 60 seconds to get that fix, to get that GPS fix. But as soon as it does, it's centimeter level for the entire time. And it's phenomenal. It's been a game changer for us. From taking out the mower, like literally we pull it off the truck and it's ready to go by the time we're like, sitting there ready to mow. So that's been a game changer for us.
Yeah. So first of all, I have to compliment you. A good friend of mine, Gary Rabine, always says, try not to be the smartest person in the room all the time. And right now you're making me feel like I'm getting an education. I'm seriously, I love it. And I truly hope that the people listening to this podcast will actually listen to it again, because, some of the stuff that you're saying, like to me, as I hear it, it just goes to show how, not only where we've come, but how far we're going to go with automation in this space, and how excited, to me, any landscaper that has an existing customer base, everyone should just be ecstatic right
Agreed.
now, because I think when we look back on this in 10 years and see the evolution of our industry because of automation, we wouldn't even recognize what it was before.
Totally agree.
And it's going to be the level of professionalism, because there's going to be people in our industry now talking how you just did, because I'm going to be hiring people that understand that. Okay. And they'll be talking to customers that have never heard this before. And the stigma of he's just my landscaper is going to go away. I mean, totally.
I love it. Love it.
So
I'm on board. I'm totally on board. And
I have to tell you, I do a ton of snow removal, and I just keep on praying that that gets automated. And you might not think about it because you're sitting down in warm Atlanta down there, but I'm telling you, you and I need to talk about, hearing all that stuff you're saying these things can do. If you think the labor shortage is bad in landscaping, you should think of what it is in snow removal.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's crazy. And everybody thinks, I talk to all these PE people and they're like, it's forget about the snow, lots of grass to be cut. But I'm like, yeah, but there's a lot more money in the snow industry, and it snows in 32 states, like almost all the time. So anyways,
yeah,
putting that little plug in a brain like yours, maybe you're already thinking it, but if you're not, I hope I inspired some problems.
Well, we do get that a lot. A lot of people ask us about snow, and they ask about fertilizer. And I think another secret that I've learned is I think the way to get big is to hyper specialize. And I know that seems counterintuitive, but it reminds me of my favorite story is there's this moving truck in our area that on the back of it says, "We specialize in everything." And I'm like, how do you do that? Like, how can you literally be good at everything? And so I do think that to get very good and big, and you've got a lot of people on who talk about billionaires and stuff like that, and great, more power to them. I do think the way you do that is you focus on one thing. So we are very hyper focused on lawn maintenance, commercial maintenance, big areas, and then we will expand. We do have as our big mission, the reason we're up every morning and we'll be doing it for the next 20, 30, however long years it takes, is that we need to free humans from repetitive outdoor labor. And there's a ton of it. I just learned the other day that these 18-wheelers, they bring them back to these places, these parking lots, and we pay somebody to do this, to spray the wheels and everything down, and this repetitive motion all around each one. And they go to the next one, they do the same thing. And I'm like, need a robot to do that. So that person can be playing with their kids and, making music, making love, like all these things that humans are better at doing that robots will never do and, don't need to do. And, anyway, I could go off on that, but you and I both agree on that. Automate all the stuff.
We do. So,
we'll get to snow blowing. That's all I'm saying is yes. First, let us do lawn maintenance.
So listen, I've got to be clear. Like, Left Hand already does.
Oh yeah. They do a great job. And by the way,
we have them, but what I'm talking about, and I keep on trying to inspire this is, I never understand. So like a skid steer. Okay. So just, we'll get off this pretty quick, because it's obviously you already said you want to hyper specialize one thing, but so a skid steer can mine with no person in it. They can send a skid steer and a big front end loader down into a mine and do all this mining, and they can do grading now. And then I bring up for snow removal, and everybody's just like, not interested. But what I'm trying to get people to understand is this, my snow removal company outperforms revenue of my landscaping company. And, we probably only get 15 events a year, 45 saltings a year, and snow removal is more than snow plowing. Snow removal is de-icing, liquid applications, and plowing. And, I just had a conversation, and I'm hoping more people, there's other people like you listening that maybe are like, okay, I'll get going in that with Joe. But
totally,
I look at it like, you think it's hard to find somebody to cut grass from 7 a.m. till 5 o'clock at night. When I call somebody and say, hey, I'm going to hire you, and they're like, awesome, how much? And I'm like, okay, I'll pay $30 an hour, but then it doesn't snow for a month. The first time I call them when it snows, they're like, dude, I got a job. Like, I can't wait for you to call me. So it's even a bigger problem. And it always does surprise me, especially like Caterpillar, why they don't do more in it. They already have some of what they need, but I don't think they have like what you have, which can see everything like right now, because they're setting the I always call them a gimbal, but they're setting the head and they're doing all this stuff. And then they leave it. It's different. So anyway.
Well, again, this is hardware companies thinking like hardware companies. So the fundamental difference between us and all these companies is we're a software company. Like, I don't build a mower. Wright Manufacturing builds the best mower that I know of. And I think that is a fundamental difference between us and, say, Left Hand Robotics. More power to them. Like, they built their own robot. There's another lawn company in stealth mode or whatever that means that's doing the same thing. And, I talked to one of the developers and they're like, yeah, we're like really into like figuring out the wheel. And I'm like, the wheel? Like, dude, get a Michelin. Like, that's what we all use. Like, get a tweel. Like, that's a solved problem. Like, why are you trying to reinvent the wheel? Literally. Literally. And so they're like, oh, well, then we're going to use this metal and then we're going to do this. I'm like, dude, we're applied roboticists at Greenzie. Like, we are taking off the shelf sensors that already do this and putting them to work. And I mean, that's just the fundamental difference between us and some of these other companies. And I think some of them are kind of pivoting that way. It's great. I think more competition is awesome. And in fact, I have a theory about competition. Like, every moment I spend thinking about competition, which is actually just bumped in my counter to 2 minutes, means I need to go to my customers. So afterwards, I'm probably going to call my customers and spend 2 minutes just talking to them, because anytime you spend thinking about your competitors is wasted. And you need to just go focus on your current customers, and you'll be a 10 times better. And I believe that.
No, listen, somebody sent me something about Robin Autopilot the other day, and my response in the email was literally, anything they do in the industry is good for me, because it's just more automation in the industry.
Totally.
Agree. So I totally agree. It's like, because you can't try to figure it out. It's just, people are going to buy your product much like they're going to buy Husqvarna's and Ambrosio's, and it's such a wide open market. I mean, I think the last time I looked, it's like $80 to $100 billion market. It's such a big market. You'll screw yourself trying to figure out how to get them you'll waste time and energy. So then what vision, has your vision changed? Like, when you originally started doing this, what's been the evolution of that original vision with Greenzie?
Well, the thing that has really never changed is this desire to free humans from this repetitive outdoor labor. And I could not say that enough, but I think when we started, it was, why is there not a better robomower? And so we were like, why do commercial people not use these? And very quickly we knew it's like, you have to install this wire, and it's just that the unit economics aren't there, and to do it the right way. So the thing that has changed a tiny bit is we've always wanted to reduce the cost of labor for lawn maintenance companies. And that's another, sort of sub goal on this path. Right. And so, how we did it, we originally wanted to retrofit these machines. And so we did that. I can show you downstairs in the lab. We've got, an X-Mark that we took and retrofitted. And it was funny. I remember showing it to Ed Wright, a long time ago. And he kind of, in his wisdom looked at it and was like, mm-hmm. And, I knew what he was thinking, because I've seen what they do, and it's hilarious. I'll tell you about that in a second. But, that it broke. Like, the thing we did was we put these industrial grade servos on it, and we had good control, and we were like doing it. And so we had good control of this machine, and we were like, all right, we're going to design this thing that attaches to somehow all these mowers and just does it. And that was really freaking hard. I think there is another company trying to do it, and more power to them if they can figure it out. But there's a reason why there's 105 years of innovation in a lawnmower. And I don't mean that, in a weird way, but there literally is. So when you take, like, we would do stuff and we would hand it over to Wright, who now does all the hardware, and they would sort of laugh and go, they're like, that bolt you just did, that's going to fall off after a year. They're like, we're going to do this. We're going to weld it. We're going to do metal. We're going to put this. We're going to do it underside. And we're going to do this. And we're going to put a fitting and blah, blah, blah. And like now it'll last for 10 years. And I'm like, oh, okay. So I was like, all right, great. You do the hardware. We'll do the software. And so that's what we do. And so I am off on a tangent. That vision of like, can we retrofit every single machine? Not yet. But the good news is that actually is not so far. What we are doing by working, exclusively with Wright is we are learning how to do it. And so now, I guess 3 years from now, if you bring me a 2020 Wright, one of those old 2020s, I can retrofit that because I've already done it, right? So yeah. There is a way to do that. But no, there was a while where people were like, great, I'm going to bring you my 96 laser X Mark. Can you retrofit it? And I would be like, dude, this thing's about to fall apart. I'm like, there's no way to retrofit this. So we are, if you look at the mower now, it's upfitted and it is like a very custom, thing that basically looks like it looks like a Tesla. I'm not going to lie. It's, we have some battery power too, but it's a gas powered mower because it has the endurance to go all day, but it is all built in and it is solid. Like it is a well-crafted machine and it just, it's beautiful if you ask me.
So are you guys working on anything with electric? So one of the things, I'm very passionate. Like I work with ags on trying to do carbon reduction. So your battery machines, how long will they?
Yeah, our second product was really actually that. I have a lot of them. I have actually a lot of commercial machines. I probably have, I have 60 grand worth of commercial electric machines down in the lab. If anybody wants to buy one, let me know. Electrics do not have the endurance yet for us. And that may be something that I'm learning, but down here in Atlanta, we do big fields and, if I was a commercial guy doing, one-off yards, the electrics are great. The battery power, they'll get there. I know that. But what I mean right now is I have to listen to my customers. And I was one. I subcontracted to Brightview and Yellowstone, and we did all season long. And what would happen is we would run out of battery at 3 p.m. and we'd be like, okay, like, what do you do? Like, and it's a 12-hour charge time. So we drive back to the trailer and then, we'd plug in, we built this special trailer where you plugged in the trailer and it would charge everything in the entire trailer overnight. And then the breaker would trip and we'd wake up in the morning and we'd call our customers and be like, you know how we didn't finish yesterday at 3? Well, we can't even mow today because it needs another 12 hours to charge. And it was like, they're like, we told you electric was not the solution. And we're like, ugh. So I believe that electric will come and it will get the endurance needed. And I believe that there are several vendors who are doing kick-ass job at that. Mean Green Mowers, Greenworks Commercial, even Skag and Gravely are coming out with theirs and I applaud them and I would love it and they can send me one and I'll automate it. It's fine. But for now, my customers are not asking for it. And the efficient gas-powered mowers that we have right now that do a great job and they last all day and you can go get more fuel and fuel it up. And I've joked with Ed, we're going to remove the cup holders on the current ZK standard because we don't need the extra space. Literally, we don't. We put more fuel in there and just keep going.
Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, still, gas. So how about propane? Do you
Sure. You know what I mean? Again, I don't make the machine. So, whatever, manufacturer wants to do, our software can automate it. And so what we do is we've been very specific about we're applied robotics. We automate the repetitive parts of the labor. And so however you want to control the machine, I'm actually coming out with a How It Works video we're recording next week on really the specifics of how we control the mower, because it's pretty awesome what we've been able to do in partnership with Wright and Hydro Gear and some of the other players. So it is extremely precise, standard, CAN bus, all that stuff. So the electrics, it's crazy. I used to think, I heard a bunch of roboticists, we hijacked this electric and I was like, oh, we're going to get super precise control. And then we got this Wright standard and I have better control and it's insane. And I can't go into, I would love to go into why, but it's way too much details. But, having lag in a mechanical system, not to get too crazy, is very tough. Like when you tell the machine, hey, turn this way and it kind of drifts or whatever, there's almost zero lag in the system, just, which makes it very easy to automate and very fun. And when you see it drive, you're like, whoa, you're like, that thing is super precise. And that's because it's constantly measuring it like 200 times a second, like how straight it's going. So when we fire this thing down the road, it's bumping around and it's just adjusting like faster than a human can to like stay straight. So it's pretty cool to watch.
Yeah, that makes sense. Because something I've always thought with electric when I try them out, because I kind of get what you're saying with the controls, is I've always thought like, man, it'd be nice if they just put like one big electric motor that goes right to the hydraulic pumps. So you still are controlling hydraulically.
Well, there are some vendors who've done that, but I don't know why some of the current commercial electric haven't.
Yeah, because everybody else has like an individual motor for every blade, and then one for each wheel motor. And it's like, man, you got a lot of motors, a lot of money, a lot of controls, a lot of wiring. You could literally just boom and then keep all the hydraulic systems the same.
Yeah, and I think it's interesting. I think the lawnmower industry kind of fast follows the car industry. So like, for a while, like, I mean, EFI came out and cars had it, and then engines
now
quickly.
lawnmowers.
Now lawnmowers. And so like, we're in this stage now where they're getting CAN bus, which is the protocol for digital control. And so, the right standard we have is, a CAN bus, digital control. And you can't tell when we put people on it, they're like, oh, this is nice and responsive. And then I open up the thing and they're like, whoa, there's no mechanical link to the, hydraulics. They're like, that's cool. Like, that's really cool. And so they can feel it, and you can even tune it, which is even crazier. Right. So like, how you get on an old Exmark and you're like, oh, there's some play in this bad boy. There's none in ours. Like you can just tune it out. So it's been pretty cool.
No,
so it drives better. Like it drives better as a human. This is what's crazy about our technology on this mower is it literally drives better, is more fun to drive, and it drives itself. So like, anyway, it's cool.
Yeah, no, it is really cool. I mean, I think you've got to be in it like you and I are to be as excited, because I think there's so many people that don't even bother looking at it yet. But once they do, or once they would demo one or whatever, your mind really starts going, kind of like you, like when your friend said, hey, robo mowers or robotic lawnmowers, and you're like, I don't know. And then you start to research it, and then you realize, wow, this is actually a really cool industry to do this in,
I just didn't know I had no idea how little the market penetration was on those. So Joe, you've got your work cut out for you. You got a lot more selling to do. I mean, there's plenty of room for all of this. In fact, I believe maybe Joe and I could take this offline, but I think there's room for both. I mean, I'm not trying to be competitive or, thing. Like, I think it's an arsenal, like we talked about, a tool in your trailer. Like, I think a vision for the future, landscapers out there, how cool would it be if your business is like this? People pay you money. Awesome. And at night you roll through a neighborhood and you toss out these tiny little machines that kind of look like robo-mowers on the yard. And, each one's programmed for the customer, and, one will draw a logo from their favorite sports team in their yard, which is cool. We can do that now. And so you throw these things out, and then you'd come by in the morning after they're done mowing all night and pick it up. And they're just paying you money to do this. And all you're doing is really just this business of making their lawn look beautiful. And they love you. Everybody's getting paid. That's my vision. I think we'll get there. I mean, our software could work on these robo-mowers. We've actually got some down here. We put it on there. It's a little expensive. You think those robo-mowers are kind of expensive now, like when we put all our sensors and have to miniaturize and stuff like that. But we're working on it. So don't worry. We'll have a better robo-mower that will not require the boundary wire, which is going to be cool. So
yeah, no, that's awesome. I mean, I've got some deals with cemeteries, and I'm, so, not having wires where they're digging holes every day, that could be good.
Totally.
So, so, I mean, I think that, at this point, I think that if there's not anything else you want to talk about with it, I mean, you've talked about the how-to videos. I think almost the way you ended it with your vision and your hope, I think it's a perfect ending point.
Cool. Well, I would just tell people, and I appreciate you bringing me on the show. I'm not very good at marketing. I play one on TV, on podcasts, but I am good at building a product and engineering, and that's what I get excited about. I'm going downstairs to help my team. We're doing field testing today. I can kind of hear a mower. Hope you can't hear it. We're out running the mower. It's beautiful down here in Atlanta. So we are running tests constantly, rolling around, breaking things, fixing things. So we are doing small private fleets. We do demos for the largest landscapers. Sorry for the real small ones. If you're a big one and you're listening, call me. I will be there for the mid-market and small ones. I promise you, I'm working hard on those. I have to focus on those customers who have the budgets and R&Ds and the numbers and can do it. We'll get you there. But if you are interested, please follow us on Instagram. That's our main channel. We love putting up stuff on there. I put videos out on YouTube. Subscribe. You can see I do how it works. Follow Right if you can't. Their videos are phenomenal. If you're a landscaper looking for education, this year they've been on a tear with like cut quality, how to stripe a lawn, all this stuff. So look there, look us up, and thanks, Joe. Keep doing what you're doing, man. Let's automate success for everybody.
Yeah, great. Like I said, thanks for being on the show. It was a blast, and hopefully in the future we can maybe start making this like a yearly thing, because I think that every year there's going to be something different you're going to want to talk about. So
all right, let's do it.
All right, awesome. All right, thanks a lot.
Have a good one. Cheers.
Yep, you too.